Welcome to the Money Mentors Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on Money Mentors. I'm Laurel Stewart here with my husband, Taylor. And guys, it's our favorite time of year because it's football season. It's back.
It's great.
It was so nice this last weekend. We had some moments with the kids outside on the back patio. It was beautiful, and it was getting a little cooler, and we all snuggled up, and we were watching football, and then transitioned into watching a later movie with having popcorn and M&Ms. So it's just a wonderful time of year.
Yeah.
It's my favorite time of year. The weather's great. Every weekend is filled with football. You can't beat it.
Any smack talk at the office? Because I know you have a lot of green and white fans, and then you have the Michigan fans. So how's that going?
We have no data to support the smack talk right now, so there isn't much of it.
Yeah, I'm keeping pretty quiet, but Gerald does like to boast.
National champions, which
So smack talk,
awesome.
yes, not warranted from our part, but hey, it's a long season. We'll see.
It is. And,
We're happy to have a Michigan team overall, but
right. Yeah, but it goes back to, hey, it just matters what happens on the field. So we hope you're going to enjoy some of that football this weekend. But as always, we're here at Matson Financial Services. When you're ready to talk about anything that we discuss on the show, get serious about your retirement and investing strategy, we're going to cover a lot on today's show. So if you have a question for us, maybe you're in that retirement red zone right now, feel free to reach out to us, 800-536-8907. Or you can always connect with us and schedule a chat right there online at matsonfinancial.com. Just click on that calendar button there at the top of our homepage. But the Labor Department released some new data recently showing the U.S. added more than 800,000 fewer jobs over a year's time. So negative 800,000. Now, the first thing that came to mind for me when I heard this report was this famous line going back to a 2000 presidential debate between former President George W. Bush and Al Gore.
I can't let the man continue with fuzzy math.
Fuzzy math. It was a time of great political discourse. I wish we could go back to those debate days, but I'm not a mathematician either, but I feel like I could get an estimate closer than just 800,000 here, right? Fuzzy math on the government's part, I feel like. But should we trust some of the data that's coming out right now?
I think that's a real tough one. It definitely causes some distrust in my eyes. And also, we think about it, a big part of that labor number is being factored into the federal board. And are they going to decrease interest rates? So that bodes well for September. But if we're 800,000 off over the last 12 months, does that mean that maybe that data and other trends would have put in interest rate decreases earlier this year like we kind of all were expecting? So, we go back to 2022 and the inflation numbers, and even still, right, looking at where inflation's at, but depending on where you're going, like let's say the grocery store, it sure still feels like it's a heck of a lot higher than what that reported inflation number is, right? So it's all relative to where you're spending your money at. And I think that the important thing is that obviously these things are being reviewed, but I got a lot of questions for the person that was counting those jobs. It was almost a million off.
Well, I think that's the hard part, too, is going into an election year, we're all emotional and we're all really passionate about what's happening. And, I'm seeing a lot of things online of it shouldn't be driven around policies. We shouldn't be talking about that. And it's like, yes, we should. What else are people in government for, right?
Right, yeah.
It's not about the vibes and how things are going. It's about the policies and what changes need to happen for betterment of our country, like first and foremost. And I think no matter on what side you're on, I'm not here to have you choose a political party. But what we're trying to do here is actually just give you some of the facts, right? And what we're seeing and how that's actually going to change everybody from top down. And so one thing for you to plug into is what's going to happen with taxes. There's some noise around the Harris campaign with unrealized capital gains and what that can do. And Taylor and I started talking about all these different things over the last week to say, well, just in simple math, if there's farmland out there that individual inherits, let's say it's $3 million, and then there's a 25% unrealized capital gains tax applied to that, that's $750,000. Well, you own land, you don't own cash.
Right. How are you going to pay that bill?
So where do you come up with that? And then if we see, we're out here in rural areas, that's where we live too. And so these farmers that we care so much about, and if something happens to impact that farmer and they go under then, and they sell off and you've got more homes and recreational areas popping up, what is that then going to do to food costs? And then what does that do then for laying off individuals and employees in this case that we're looking at? and they're trying to raise the minimum wage, well, that's going to once again squeeze employers to then make job cuts. So there's a lot of concern that we have when it comes to some of those policies that we're hearing about. But granted, they haven't taken the stage yet to talk about everything yet, so we'll see. But just wanted to let you know that there's a lot of noise out there with all the headlines and politics and what this means from the government and from Wall Street data. But what we can tell you is no matter what we think is to stay committed to your long-term goals and stay invested. We have different things that we've went over at our client events this past year, which we call our First Friday events. And some of those slides that we've shown are if you actually took your money out and only were invested when you're affiliated a party was in office, you'd be losing so much potential when it comes to the stock market. But if you stay invested entirely, and it doesn't matter your political affiliation, man, that compounding growth and what you can get over the long term is where it's at. So stay invested, research what's out there, and remember, we have a lot of sophisticated AI out there.
Yes.
So it knows what I like, it knows what you like, and you're going to continue to see things that it knows with algorithms to throw in front of you, not other things. So try to do research outside of your comfort zone. Try to get past those AI different things out there and see what's happening.
Real life lessons about your retirement. You're listening to the Money Mentors Podcast.
Now, thanks to all this recent economic data, the Federal Reserve is strongly hinting now about a rate cut coming in September. So we could just be a matter of weeks away now. Is this a good or bad thing, though, for the people that you work with, retirement savers and retirees?
I think it's important to understand what a rate cut will really do in both facets. So for retirees, let's start with somebody that's buying a home, right? I actually just met with a client earlier this week. He works for the Department of State. He's in Cambodia. They're coming back to Washington, D.C. for his job, and they're looking to buy a house. And with interest rates at 6.5, a touch over 7%, in some cases, a half a point reduction would be a huge amount that he would save on his monthly mortgage, right? If you're borrowing money for a car or buying a house, lower interest rates obviously are better. But for retirees and people who are saving these dollars, that means that your CD rates aren't going to be 4.5% to 5% anymore. Your money market rates are going to come down. Looking at some guaranteed investments like fixed index annuities, some of those rates that would be applied to how your money's going to continue to grow are going to come down a bit too. And as rates continue to come down, we'll see all of those interest rates from CDs to money markets to annuities and bonds also continue to come down. But in the bond market, we're still in a good period where we can lock in some pretty attractive yields. And then as those interest rates come down, your bond price actually is going to appreciate because somebody wants to pay you more for that bond because you have it locked in at a higher yield versus what they're being issued at today. So it's actually a really advantageous time to structure those bond investments, but also those safe money investments. It's really important to take a peek at the plan and see what we can do and tweak to take advantage of the rates while we still got them.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking with a bank manager a couple weeks ago, and we were looking at different things, and she was talking about a 3-month rate, which seemed pretty good. 6-month rate was the most attractive, and then we were talking about the 9-month, and that was already dropping, right? Because they're expecting these cuts and what that's going to look like. So just keep that in mind, and back to Taylor's point, if action is needed, or if you're wondering, maybe my money on the sidelines isn't working as hard as it should, this is the time to take advantage of those certain strategies to make sure your money is working as hard as you did for it.
And there's a lot of easy options from local credit unions to online banks. I mean, I know American Express has a 4.25% yield on their high yield savings account, right? So it's liquid. You don't even have to put it in a CD where it's tied up a short period of time. There's a lot of options, again, online, local. So make the most of it while we can.
Want weekly lessons from your money mentors? Yes. Hit the subscribe button now and listen every weekend on Wood Radio.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Fee-based financial planning and investment services are offered by Matson Financial Services, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance products and services offered through Lakeview Financial Group, LLC, Matson Financial Services, LLC, and Lakeview Financial Group are affiliated. To find out if Matson Financial Services is licensed in your state, please call 800-536-8907.